Greetings, everybody. We have gathered around the table today for another episode. Once again, going to plug the fact that Nick Shabaz's little contest for up-and-coming YouTube channels is still running, so vote for us again.
Yeah, until like June 8th, I believe, he posted the other day that he had gotten the deadline in. And, yeah.
So theoretically, there's nothing stopping you from going and voting again, right? Like, you could go through and vote for all of your favorite channels again if you wanted to.
I do believe so.
Yeah, promote the community, get it out there. So
To kick it off,
we want to thank again Ryan, Twin Bar Leatherworks. I don't know how many times we're going to thank him, but I'm going to throw it out a couple times. But yeah, they're still pretty awesome coasters. He did amazing work.
It turned out so good.
Yeah, hopefully we'd like to get some on market. So if people are interested, let us know in the comments on whether you'd like some coasters, because we're enjoying them.
The more interest that you guys give us, the quicker we'll be to get them going for you.
Yep.
Sort of idea.
And I've gotten them wet. I've spilled my drink on them, so that it just wipes right off.
I may have wiped mine down 2 or 3 times already tonight.
Dennis is a sloppy drunk.
Says Joseph.
Oh, Jesus. Well, pot calling kettle black and all that, but I still have to say it.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, pocket dumps. Let's get on this.
Let's go down to society.
All right, I'm carrying my tuxedo grip. It's the carbon fiber.
On carbon fiber.
On carbon fiber with some carbon fiber and M390.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know how soft the M390 is, but it does me just fine.
We'll talk about that.
55.
It's a benzo.
With your reckoning.
The same thing as last week. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. What's the Rockwell of that?
This is a little bit older, so between 58 and 59 apparently.
Yeah.
So not quite ideal, but it's served me well.
It's not 55.
It's not 55. It's not anywhere near 55.
Fair enough. And this week I got my Boker Quaken in VG10. So
Classic.
It's Rockwell. Doesn't really matter at that point.
I'm rocking a little pocket Kiridashis that I had forged.
Hell yeah.
There.
Self-promotion is where it's at.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I do have them available. Speaking of that whole self-promotion thing, so if anyone's interested, hit me up.
What are they made out of?
1095 with these guys and using a microcord wrap on them.
They've got a really nice little polish on them. I like the juxtaposition.
You got a pretty decent edge on that little bastard.
Yeah.
I like the juxtaposition between the polish and the rough forging.
Use caution if using it as a craft knife.
Yeah.
I'd hate to get a little cut from that.
So let's put those down the table.
So today we are going to be looking at a new offering from Benchmade. It's one of their Black Class series. Their newest safety rescue knife, the Outlast.
Nice save, Paul.
Fantastic.
So at an overall weight of 5.96 ounces, it would take about 440 of these to equal the weight of the world record heaviest wolf.
That's 20 too many.
Wolves?
There was only one wolf.
Touche.
Yep.
They'll get it.
So what was that weight with 440 times this?
The weight of
I want to know what the weight of the wolf is, Dad.
2,606.746 ounces.
Oh, that doesn't tell me anything. I'm going to have the math on pounds to ounces.
Yeah.
Google's your friend?
We'll tell you tomorrow.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
There might be a blurb here. I might OCD and actually find out the weight on this biggest wolf situation. We're not done. We're not done here.
Don't forget.
Probably. So at a overall length of 8.41 inches, it would take about 2 of these to equal the length of the largest snail in the world, the Akatani.
That's like an African land snail, isn't it?
Yeah.
Those things are creepy. giant.
And I hate to be a pain in the ass, but are we talking about over length from tip to tip?
I was going to ask you that same question.
That had popped into my head as well.
You were saying that, I realized that the hook adds an extra good quarter to half inch, yeah. And then I was also going to say that you can totally shuck that snail with the pry bar tip.
So it's 9.
Yeah, for counting the hook as well, it's 9 inches, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So it adds a 0.2 inches.
I like that idea. I'm going to try and shuck an oyster with it.
Yeah. It would do.
That's the right thing to do.
Users shall open only one blade at a time. Open one blade using its designated thumb opening device and close that same blade by pulling the lock towards you. Never use or open blade without ensuring the other blade is secured closed. Never use or handle while both blades are open in any way. Such improper use or handling may cause serious injury.
As you can see, this guy has a multitude of blades here. Got a little seatbelt strap cutter on the back side. Our best guess that we can research out is it's got a 440C for that blade. Got a normal using working blade, a drop point style using S30V, and then a fully serrated chisel ground.
They called it like their working edge or something like that?
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
3V.
Yeah, and that guy's got 3V in it.
And I think by working, they mean they've got like serrations inside their serrations, because the grind on that thing is crazy.
It's a cool
pretty
looking
aggressive.
grind, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, do you grind that out with a 2 grit belt?
I was joking around earlier before recording that it kind of looked like a the micro grooves on a honing steel.
Like the
Yeah.
or more like the micro rasps almost.
And you can feel them cleanly. Like,
I bet you though, if you had to cut a pair of like pants or something like that,
Yeah.
they'd slide right through it.
Oh, for sure. For the intended use,
Yeah.
it's nothing an issue with that drive style. Yeah.
Deep carry pocket clip, as Benchmade's doing a lot lately, left and right-handed, as they always do. So, yeah,
Yay.
everyone on the table's happy that this isn't a Rook review right now.
yeah.
And like deep
Proper
carry.
deep.
Yeah.
Which I think also helps the last feature, which is the tungsten carbide window punch.
Yeah.
I think that helps it sit in your pocket a little bit nicer.
Hide it away.
Yeah, it's not going to dig into your hip a little bit when you're doing that, right?
So one of the neat features of this guy is the fact that it is using the 2 blades and running off of 1 lock.
Yeah.
Which is a bit of a departure from what people were imagining when they initially announced the option lock, they're calling this.
Yep.
Although they did have the addition of leaf springs on the inside of the liners. Maybe we can get a picture in afterwards to show more clearly. But
The D10s on both blades. Pretty neat.
yeah,
Keep stuff out of the way.
and that's kind of unique to this blade. It is unique right now to this knife, where if you pull back the axis lock, there's no hint of the blade beginning to swing at all. It's completely in place.
Yeah. Yeah,
Which-
you can swing it closed, but you can't swing it open. It doesn't seem to be anyways.
So it's neat that they were trying to figure out something different to do for the 2 blade thing.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of sucks that they didn't actually come out with something different, though.
No.
Yeah.
Calling it an option lock kind of implies that the lock will either actuate on one side or the other, as opposed to, oh, it's just added D10s. It's
Yeah.
like, I don't know if that really needs its own name.
No.
Ultimately, it's just a variation of an axis lock. They did a good job of it.
Slightly
Yeah.
wider.
Yeah, slightly longer type thing, and they did a good job of it. It holds up pretty decent. Like,
Well, it's still
Yeah.
a good lock.
It's interesting that it's running on bronze phosphor washers as well as a bearing as well. There's a bearing in between those 2 blades.
to actually keep them separated.
Yeah.
On top of bronze.
Very cool.
It's a pretty neat option.
It brings up the question of disassembly as well. Like, you can really question what a disassembly on this bad boy is going to be like. I haven't seen anyone
Nick
post a
Shabazz,
video.
let us know.
Yeah. We are
It's a
not
3-hour
brave
video
enough.
just filled
Yeah.
with cussing.
It's IKBS.
Oh, Jesus.
I can verify from the action it has, it is definitely not IKBS.
No.
Shots fired.
So, I personally really dig the primary blade. I'm a
Yeah.
super fan of the primary blade.
Yeah, nice and simple drop point. It is a
Thin.
yeah.
Yeah, if you're a fan of the triage, it's the same profile as the triage, but like half the thickness. It's,
and they did that to be able to still have room for the both of the blades, but not make the whole knife itself too thick and chunky.
Would you be able to show how the difference in blade thickness? Like,
It's pretty substantial.
it is significant.
And for a similar grind profile, like the same sort of saber-ish
Yep.
grind, that's pretty cool to see a blade that thin in a working knife.
I was gonna say, for how thin that blade is and everything else, she slices pretty damn good.
Yeah, I was super impressed. Even the aesthetics of it all, I want to see this on another blade all by itself.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's a sexy looking knife just like that, and I'd like to see them use that blade on just like a primary civilian style knife. I would really love to
That'd
see
be
that.
really cool, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So one of the things that I find really interesting about the secondary blade that they have is that they did do it a chisel ground.
Yeah.
And with how they did it flat on the one side and then did a bevel on the top there and flat on this side and beveled that one, it's almost like they were starting to do a besh wedge grind on the thing.
Yeah, really curious on if anyone else has noticed that this is suspiciously like a besh wedge, and no one can say it properly.
I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say it looks a lot like a propeller from a plane.
That too,
It's the
yeah.
same-
Yeah.
That's some sort of weird twistiness.
But I mean, maybe with the dagger factor on the besh stuff and things like that, it doesn't get into a similarity of that.
Mhm.
It's just a grind option at that point. And
Yeah.
for 3V, kept it at a reasonable thickness as well as the primary blade. You dabbled on earlier, getting them both in, which also dabbles on weight. And making them that thin with the steel choices that they used
Keeps it under 6 ounces.
keeps it in a tight enough package.
Just squeezes in.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like 5.9, right?
Yeah.
So I think that was also considered in mind, and I think they did a good job of that. I believe skeletonized handle as well.
No.
No, not.
So back to back.
The holes in the back and then the grooving for the
Detents?
detent springs, but no
Inner
like
ones.
full
Okay,
skeletonizing.
so they did
just
a little bit there.
yeah, just like a
Away from the
hole.
D10.
Yeah.
Maybe that was done to enhance prying strength. Just
Solid up front.
Could be.
Yeah.
Could be just those locks are in the way. Oh, the locks. The springs are in the way. The D10 springs.
yeah.
So yeah, one of the things that kind of stands out to me at least, and I know Dennis was talking about it earlier as well, is the machining that they did on all the studs. It's all matching, and it's a cool little detail for sure.
And it's not something I've seen on any other knife too. Like it's not something they just pulled over from a different line.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, definitely a fan of it. And again, with the aesthetics of the blade, with that unique pivot, it just makes that whole knife stand out to me way more than I thought it was going to, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. And then on the note of the studs, and what this one pops out, is they kind of changed up the angle comparatively to other rescue knives that they've done.
Got it in line with the handle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you notice this hook is actually going this way, whereas the new Outlast hook is parallel to the spine, right?
And it's
So-
a bigger hook, easier to catch the fabric of the seatbelt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm sure the
Yeah, the
triage
opening.
would hook up and it would pull it down, but this being all symmetrical, it's already there. So as long as you're scraping the back of your hand against something,
Yeah.
it's gonna follow suit type of thing, right? So
Mm-hmm.
definitely enjoy that quite a bit. The other redesign they had, and I believe they did it on the original or the new triage as well, but the
Triage EDC.
old triage, the window punch was slightly offset. I don't know, somewhat similar to what my Contigo is. So when you were striking with the window punch, you were more likely to miss-hit.
Yeah,
type
hit a
of thing.
flat spot
So they changed it on there to be really at the apex of
at the very top.
the back of the handle. You're much more likely not to miss hit because it in the back of your hand is going to line up to it
It's the
every
highest
single
corner
time.
knife.
Mm-hmm.
Where, they were complaining about you having to be lined up in an emergency. You might be in the rush of a moment.
Of course.
Much more likely to hit it with the new design compared to some of the older designs, right?
May seem like a slight difference, but it's an important one, I think. Especially given what the sniper's meant to do.
Just notice too very quickly that Deep carry, both, but more deep carry on.
Yeah, they completely got rid of
the
the
lanyard hole.
No lanyards. Yeah.
Yeah.
which I don't think will be missed. Again, for the type of people who are going to be carrying these knives. You're not seeing
It's not your review, triage.
Yeah.
Quiet down.
I don't think you're going to see EMTs walking around with lanyards on their knife, no matter what it is. So it's kind of a smart decision just to act it.
If you absolutely desperately needed to have a lanyard on your knife, you could tie it around the clip pretty easily too.
Yeah.
You can make it work.
So, as nice as that little bit of the redesign and the repositioning of the clip or the punch is for the actual use of it, as far as the closing, I cannot manage to close this knife unless I'm doing it two-handed and trying not to dig that carbide punch tip into my palm, and it hurts.
So I think for anyone who has a large or an extra large hand, sometimes you have a tendency to put the knife into the palm of your hand when you're closing it. And when you do that, you drive that window punch beautifully right into the dimple of your hand.
Mm-hmm.
And over time, in a civilian point of view, that is actually probably going to affect you over time, right? So
the only thing I can say about that is it's better this poking you than the tip of the blade, like when you're closing your reptilian like that and it cuts the palm of your hand.
My valet, I got to be conscious. The bug out has caught me once or twice. There's knives. Birdshot IV, the Frankie, talks about getting the palm of his hand and him having chubby palms. And I don't think it's necessarily him in particular. I think it's just a thing with anyone with larger hands.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
It just happens to be that the way I close this knife, the carbide tip is literally just barely resting against my hand. So for me, it's not so much of a problem, but I could definitely see that if you're used to doing that, it might be a bit of a concern.
Well, my hands are big enough that even with the Contigo, I use the backside to...
Yeah.
If you think he's lying, guys, no.
But with the Contigo, same thing for me, is it's a long enough knife that it's now doing what this one does and sits across the palm of my hand when you're closing it. But any smaller knife, I'll get into that pinchy category.
I found in opening that second blade too, if you go for the spiny flick, if you try and hold it too straight because of that's such a narrow opening, you can't really get it open. You've got to go more on an angle. And you do that a few times, but it will pop. You definitely need a little wrist action on it.
Mm.
You always need a little wrist action on there.
That was my...
Yeah.
Yikes.
It helps. You don't want to waste time. You're not there to waste time. You got to get the job done. You got to flex your wrist a little bit.
Ladies.
So another one of the negatives that I can point out is the ergonomics of this thing.
Yeah.
Is to be able to get the two blades in there, one of them is always closed and always in the way of the handle, and that does get a little obtrusive. I don't find it majorly obtrusive, but...
And again, in the gloved hand...
Yeah, in the gloved hand, I definitely wouldn't notice it, I don't think.
In an emergency situation, you're not going to care.
Yeah.
Really.
For sure.
But...
It's so comfortable with both blades out, though.
I know, that's the main reason why it bugs me, is you pop both blades out and it's just super, super, super comfortable.
Yeah,
and I had thought that maybe a compromise could have been taking this opening hole, moving it down to the end of the blade, maybe scalloping this blade out a little bit so that you could use that finger choil. But then it's not as easy as a one-handed opening for these serrated blades. So it feels like no matter what, it's a compromise unless you're using this iteration.
And it's not going to come out of your hand naturally in both situations.
Yeah.
You'll have to rotate depending on what kind of blade you're deploying.
I think the problem is that we're looking at it as a finger choil, and it's not a finger choil. It is a space to get to the thumb stud or the opening hole, and that's all.
Yeah.
I suppose.
Yeah.
But it is still pinchy.
Your finger wants to be there.
Yeah.
No, this one was thankfully borrowed from a friend of ours that's given it to us for review. So I am allowed to cut stuff with it. It's entirely possible that I am going to do some dual blade open cuts just to see. Yeah, because I think that's very humorous, and I just want to see what happens when you get a little combo action going on, right?
Really quick way to make cardboard strips, I guess.
No, it's confetti. It's just when someone comes in, you can just see how fast you can cut. Yeah. Another guy over here with some cucumber, another guy over here.
And then all of a
Maybe
sudden we're
coleslaw.
tossing salads.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, we are.
Are we?
No.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Joe.
I'm sure the audience thanks you too. Okay, it's a fat knife.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Kind of wish we had the Adamas here to compare it to, but it's about roughly the same thickness overall.
Yeah.
It's a chunk.
It feels thinner than the Subvert. I'm not sure if it actually is thinner than the Subvert.
The Subvert's also got a more like narrow handle too, so maybe that has something to do with it.
Yes, I'm going to say it's a little thinner than the Subvert.
There you go.
Fair
It's
enough.
got two blades and it's narrower than
Yeah.
the Subvert.
The Subvert's a monster though.
Yeah.
It is.
I think the big thing for me on the thickness of it, it did bug me a little bit for sure. Again, we borrowed this one, and thankfully I could actually carry it for a couple days. So I did get a chance to actually carry it around, and it did have like the weight and the package combined. I think why some of the other knives don't bug me as much is you've got a stretched out package dispersing the weight, things like that.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Package.
You got to disperse the weight. Like you can't have a condensed package, and
Yeah.
that's what you're working with here.
Yeah,
It's a
you get
condensed
all
package.
that weight jammed into one tight, short, stout little spot.
Yeah.
It gets a little awkward.
He's hating on growers.
You had to just come out and say it, didn't you?
So, yeah, for the knife in particular, I definitely felt it being a little bricky in my pocket, for sure.
Mhm.
Given the added capability, maybe that's not so much a concern, but it is something that's noticeable when you're carrying it.
And depends what you're used to carrying. Like, I'm used to my 456 from ZT.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
That's
For
bricky knife.
same
Yeah.
sort of package size and even more weight, it's like the weight of this guy doesn't bug me.
I was going to say 4, 5, 6, and even the my PPT it's a fat knife for what it is.
Well, your 801's got some thickness to it. Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
And again, I got to reiterate that this is not necessarily designed as a civilian knife. And for us looking at it in a civilian attitude, it's not necessarily the fairest,
Assessment.
assessment. Yeah, judgment call. It's,
I'm using it for EDC.
yeah,
Scroll that noise.
well, you can, don't get me
Oh,
wrong.
I'm gonna.
But it's really, really aimed and marketed towards first responders, right?
And I
So,
I want to buy two. With one that I can EDC and the other one that I can actually use for its intended purpose.
Fair
But
enough.
that's stupid.
It is stupid, but you'll probably do it anyway.
No, I'm just gonna buy the one and keep it really sharp.
There you go.
So yeah, I think through all the cons that we have, I think a lot of them aren't nearly as much of a con in the emergency rescue point of
In
view.
the
Yeah.
intention of use, they make a lot of sense.
It matters much, much less in an emergency rescue point of view more than an EDC point of view, where we have the luxury to have things that are not
More
pry
comfortable.
bars, but
Maybe a bit more streamlined. Yeah.
yeah.
I
So,
would love to see what that little blade could do as a pry bar.
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not going to try too hard.
No. I'm not suggesting that you should. I would just love to see because how thin that is.
It's 3V.
So yeah, on to the grading of this guy. I personally gave it a 68, coming in at a C. As far as the objective side of things, it did really, really well. Lowest I gave it was a 6 for the lockup and actuation, just because of trying to close it and the issue I have with the point poking in and the wiggliness of the lock bar.
Understandable. Yeah.
Find it a little odd like that.
Yeah, we didn't really dabble on the
No.
rockiness of the lock bar, but I was saying before recording, and yeah, it's in the middle of your story, but
Yeah.
we're going to dabble on this, that
Real quick.
it does a same amount of wiggle as on any other Benchmade. There's not much. It's within a mil or two, but with a longer access lock, you feel it a lot more.
Mhm.
So for me, it has this sign of weakness on that guy, and a little bit of the uncomfortable while you're squeezing.
You can smell weakness.
Yeah,
That's terrifying.
Fear.
indeed. The highest rank that I gave it was a 9 for fit and finish. Pretty much nothing wrong with it, like a little bit of crispness at the edges of the studs, but other than that, all the edges are nicely chamfered, it's nicely centered, I don't really find anything wrong with it.
You would almost have to make sure that it was nice and centered with this thing.
Yeah.
Because the two blades, they'd be slapping each other. If you
Yeah.
didn't.
I'm curious to see a couple models over time, and I'm definitely going to be a little more critical on what they're doing for a double-bladed system and just seeing how.
How consistent they can
Yeah.
be. Yeah.
As far as the personal side of things, ranked it generally a little lower. It's a nice knife and all, but not really up my alley. It doesn't really do anything.
He hesitated before he said alley.
Not his.
Up my tree, up my alley. I wasn't sure I was going there.
But I think you're going with but.
No, I was not.
You were going to say wheelhouse,
Don't
and you
put
realized
it
how
in-
silly that sounded.
Yeah,
Don't put it in your butt.
Anyway.
no, that is a bad call for sure.
That's too many blades.
Yeah, lowest score overall that I ended up giving it was 5 for enthusiasm, just because I'm neutral about the thing.
You were not enthused.
No.
No, I think the only person that was enthused was me.
Like right
Yeah.
out of the gate, you were the one who had the
I was
highest height.
excited. Yeah.
Yeah.
And on that note, I guess it would be me
Sure.
Yeah.
next. I was actually more excited about it than after it came in. After I got to play with it, to tell you the truth, when it first came out, it was kind of like Nigel, where it wasn't marketed towards me, and I know it wasn't marketed towards me. I can appreciate it for what it is, but it's not my jam, right? So, but once I got to play with it, both the blades, the hook, the ergonomics of it, it's not the end of the world. Even having that serrated blade down to have that in your ergos, yeah, I docked it a little bit. Like it got a 7 for ergonomic execution because you are going to notice that a little bit. But again, with the fit and finish, beautiful chamfering on every corner. Paul had mentioned a little bit of roughness on the thumb studs and things like that they could have knocked down a little bit, but overall, a grade. I gave it 8s and 9s across the board for the fit and finish and the materials type of thing, right? The lockup and the actuation, it's the first time that their knife is not truly ambidextrous. For either hand, whereas most Benchmates truly are. More so for the right because the O2 valve and left, but for the left-handed, you have to finger flick this thumb stud, and you can do it, you can get her out type of thing, right? As well as the hole.
But you're trying to push the flat
You bet,
blade.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's not as natural as Benchmate's known to be with their single-bladed knives for both right-handed and left-handed people, so I docked a little bit. Ergonomics, again, I carried it for a couple days, and it was a little bit bricky on my part. And then enthusiasm, again, a 7. It was actually pretty low on my radar. I probably would have ranked it a 5 or so, but then I got to play with it, and I was like, there's no complaints. For the guys who like this are going to probably really like this. It's just, yeah.
Mhm.
I carry valets.
Yeah.
Different use case.
940s in
Yeah.
carbon fiber.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I wasn't too far off from your scoring. I think I may have been a bit more harsh at a 73 C+. Objectively, I gave it reasonably high scores, 8, actually for 3 out of the 5 scores. Where I thought it really did fail, though, was ergonomic execution. The major thing is thinking about using this knife under stress. How sure can you be that you're going to be able to get that little spidey flick to get that blade out the first time when adrenaline? I mean, a lot of EMTs are going to be very seasoned, and they're going to be more calm under stress than I would be.
If
in
I
that
was going to
same
grab it in
situation.
an EMT situation, I'd always grab it.
Yeah,
two-bladed.
me too.
What flavor are they seasoned with? I couldn't even get that off without laughing.
Ranch.
And so I have no. Yeah.
I was going to say honey dough.
But just for the objective of this being a one-handed opening knife and desiring to get to that whatever hand you have it in, the opposite blade, that's ideal for that particular deployment. I don't know. It just kind of bugs me that it's more difficult to get to that other blade.
Mhm.
But again, not really something that's going to affect an EMT as much. It's just something that it just bugged me enough.
And a
I
civilian
knocked it.
EDC class.
Yeah.
It might decide which hand I open it with. I might legitimately pull the knife out of my pocket,
Transition hands.
switch it to the other hand.
Again, the whole argument of one hand already being occupied.
Of course. Of course.
For personal score, I actually gave it material choice. I think I gave it an 8 because I think like 3V and S35. Those are pretty good choices for what the knife is.
That's 30.
So what did I say? Oh, sorry, it's
35.
35. Sorry. Yeah, it's 30V for the blade and 3V.
And the machining with the spring locks and the bronze bushings, I think it does justify a good overall.
Well, in fact, you do get an emergency rescue hook on the back end with its own
3 blades.
with its own spring-loaded detent, and they have the carbide. There's enough going on with this knife that, like, yeah, you know what? It does justify the price to an extent.
I think it technically counts as a Swiss Army knife at this point.
An honorary mention just appears in their catalog. Like, what the? No. 8s and then 7s for everything else. Like, I was honestly pretty impressed with this knife. I had really low expectations when I initially saw it announced. I was like, that's going to be gimmicky as shit. Like, it's going to be kind of whatever.
You're welcome.
Well, you didn't do shit for me. But, I mean, as far as getting this in hand, I got to agree, not the most comfortable thing to hold, but I don't think that's the point. It's not supposed to be the most comfortable thing. It's just supposed to work well. While still having all these other features.
Very multifaceted.
Yeah.
I have more uncomfortable knives in my collection that I carry on a regular basis.
Be that as it may.
When did you borrow Joe's Rook?
Hey, it's fine in the pocket.
I guess it's my turn now?
Yeah.
For me, I gave it an 87 because
Which is?
it's an A minus.
The best part is I don't think the rest of us actually said what it was either.
I did.
Oh, okay, I don't think I did. So
What was your score, sir?
it's too late. We've gone too far.
Anyways, so what I gave it an 8. Was my lowest score in the objective for cost versus materials, just because S30 and G10. I only took a point away from it because of the fact that it is like laser cut on the inside for the springs and everything else, and there's 3 blades and everything else that goes into that, and the like machining on the different thumb studs and stuff. Other than that, it got a 10 for cutting ability, specifically on the main blade, because of how thin and slicey that blade really is. And I can only imagine, I didn't get a chance to cut fabric with the other blade, but I can only imagine how quickly that thing would slide right through denim.
No kidding.
Like, I'm pretty sure you could probably cut somebody's like motorcycle jacket off them with it. It wouldn't take anything, you know what I mean? So that got a 10.
Hopefully they've been in an accident.
No, in traffic. You don't get that anymore.
Stoplight. It's just on a red light.
I said good day.
That's a nice patch you have.
That's rude.
And that's how
Anyway.
Paul died.
I don't even know of any other Benchmades that have a blade that thin.
No. There's not very much, like, in the knife world, other than maybe your Lithuanian thing that's, like, thin like that.
The Handmade 01. Yeah. My TRC from Lithuania.
Yeah, that's the
And I
one.
did just think of it actually, but the assisted opening with nitrous, the torrent. That
Touche.
may be not quite as thin, but it's approaching.
No, I think the Pardues, the international, might be.
I'll give you that.
Yeah, anyway.
I'll give you that.
Continue.
So, yeah, it got 9s pretty much across the board. Other than that, when I say pretty much, it was 3 9s, an 8, and a 10. You can see that. Sorry. And then across my personal score, it got 8s right down the line, except for enthusiasm, because as you can tell, I like this thing a lot. So it got a 10 because I was excited about it, and then it lived up to 9 out of 10 of my expectations. The only thing where it fell short was on that the option lock that's just an access lock, and it's a good lock, but
Some
it's
fancy
not.
hype for an access lock.
Yeah. It's like they combined an access lock with detents and said it's a new thing.
Yeah.
It's they haven't done it before, I guess.
Yeah.
All right,
So
so
that's it.
Yeah.
all 4 scores. That's what you got.
Yeah. Seems like we were all very favorable on this guy.
Yeah.
Nigel, being extra critical, still gave it above a 60. So,
Yeah.
geez.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What, 60?
68.
68, almost a 70.
Oh,
Yeah.
he fails knives on a regular basis. Like,
That's
you're
what I
going
mean.
to his class, you're taking social studies twice. Like, straight up. It's,
Why particularly social
I
studies?
don't know.
You guys have bad
Continue
memories.
It's a great knife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very, very well thought out. The design behind it is wonderful.
I didn't mention before, but I have been in the market for a rescue knife for years. Literally, like, 4 or 5 years at this point, and I finally found the one that I want to buy.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a decent seller.
So yeah, like to give a shout out and thanks to our friend Darren for lending us this knife for our review purposes. It is
Darren.
appreciated.
Yeah, Stone Wookie on Instagram. He doesn't do or sell anything, but he's an awesome guy, so you should probably follow him
Yeah.
He's a
anyway.
patrol cat.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, that being said, Nigel Smith signing off.
I am who I am. I'm Dennis Vipers.
I am the Iron Joe.
XL.ca.
We will catch you again next time.
We don't need